My husband filed for divorce right after I inherited my mom's fortune. He thought he hit the jackpot, but my mom outsmarted him. I think we should separate, Derek said it casually, standing in our kitchen. Thursday evening, 6:47 p.m. I was making his favorite dinner, chicken parmesan, the recipe his mother taught me. He didn't even wait for me to turn around, just dropped it like he was commenting on the weather. This isn't working anymore. You've changed. I've changed. I think we'd both be happier apart. The wooden spoon in my hand stopped stirring. The sauce bubbled, popped, burned my wrist. I didn't feel it. Separate, I repeated. Not a question, just testing the word. Yeah, divorce, clean break. We can be adults about it. I turned slowly, looked at him, really looked. At the man I'd defended to my mother for 3 years. The man she'd never trusted. The man she'd tried to warn me about in her quiet, careful way. The man who'd spent the last month treating me like an ATM machine after my mother died and left me everything. I always knew my mother was smart, sharp, observant. She could read people like books, see through lies, spot manipulation, predict behavior with unnerving accuracy, but I didn't know how smart until she was gone, until her final move played out exactly as she'd planned. Mom never liked Derek. She never said it directly, never outright criticized him or forbade the relationship, but I could tell. I always could tell. During visits to her house in Oak Park, she'd go quiet when Derek talked about his big plans, his opportunities, his ventures that just needed capital. She'd raise her eyebrows when he mentioned needing money for some business idea, some investment, some can't-miss opportunity. Her questions sounded like statements, like she already knew the answers, like she was testing him, watching him fail. Mom, why can't you just be happy for me? I'd asked, after one particularly tense dinner where Derek had pitched his latest money-making scheme, some cryptocurrency thing he didn't fully understand. I'm happy when you're truly happy, Rachel, she'd said, choosing her words carefully. I just want you to see the whole picture, not just the frame. He's not perfect, but he's who I chose, I'd told her. Defensive, young, stupid. She didn't argue. She just looked at me with those knowing eyes, like she could see things I couldn't, like she was watching a movie she'd already seen. I love you, sweetie, more than you know, and I'll always protect you. Always. I thought she was being overprotective, overbearing, old-fashioned. Derek wasn't rich. He worked in sales at a medical supply company, drove a 2015 Mazda with a dented bumper, lived paycheck to paycheck, always ordered the most expensive thing on the menu when someone else was paying. But he made me laugh. He remembered my birthday. He was attentive. Wasn't that enough? Wasn't that love? Now I see. Now I understand. Mom knew exactly what would happen when money came into our lives. She knew what Derek really was, and she planned for it. When Mom died suddenly from a heart attack at 64, I was devastated, destroyed, guilt-ridden. We'd argued 2 days before, about Thanksgiving. Derek wanted to go to his buddy's place in Wisconsin, some guy's hunting cabin, drinking and cards. I'd wanted to stay with Mom. She'd been alone since Dad died 5 years earlier. Derek had pressured me. It's just one Thanksgiving. She'll understand. You see her all the time. I'd chosen Derek, chosen his wants over her needs, and now I'd never have another Thanksgiving with her, never have another chance to choose right. The funeral was hard, small. Mom didn't have many friends left. Most had died or moved away. Just me, a few neighbors, some people from her book club. Derek helped with arrangements, practical things, calling the funeral home, picking flowers, but I noticed him looking at Mom's jewelry during the wake, at her furniture, at her art collection. Your mom had really good taste, he'd said, standing in her living room. This stuff is probably worth a lot. Antiques, real wood, quality. The comment felt wrong, timed wrong, but I was grieving. I let it go. 3 weeks after the funeral, 3 weeks of crying and sorting through her things and trying to figure out how to exist without her. Mom's lawyer called. Rachel, I need you to come to my office. We need to discuss your mother's estate. I met him the next morning. His office was downtown, all dark wood paneling and old law books, the kind of place that smelled like leather and old paper and money. Your mother left you everything, he said. Mr. Patterson, 60-something, reading glasses, kind eyes. He slid papers across his mahogany desk. The house, her savings, her investment accounts. It's quite substantial. I looked at the number, blinked, read it again. $580,000. This can't be right, I whispered. Mom wasn't wealthy. She worked as a school librarian. She clipped coupons. She drove the same car for 15 years. Your mother was extraordinarily frugal and disciplined, Mr. Patterson said. She saved aggressively for decades, and she inherited a significant amount from your grandmother 10 years ago. She invested wisely. She wanted you taken care of. I drove home in shock, the papers on the passenger seat like a bomb, like something dangerous, like something that would change everything. I was right. At first, Derek seemed supportive, appropriately sad, appropriately helpful. Wow, babe, he'd said when I told him about the inheritance, hugging me, holding me. Your mom was so smart, so careful. You totally deserve this. She wanted you to be secure. But within days, within hours really, he started making suggestions. Casual suggestions, excited suggestions, plans for our money. We should get you a new car, he said the next morning. Something nice, something reliable, not that 2010 Honda. You deserve better. We could rent a beach house for the whole summer, he said 2 days later. Lake Michigan, right on the water. cheaper. Wouldn't that be amazing? Let's look at bigger houses, he said at dinner, with pools, in Naperville or Hinsdale. Nice neighborhoods. We could finally afford it. Every suggestion had the same look in his eyes. Hungry, calculating, planning. Derek, I need time to think, I told him after a week of this. I want to be smart about this money. Make good decisions. Honor Mom's intentions. Smart about it? His fork stopped mid-bite. This is our chance to live better, to enjoy life. Why are you hesitating? Why are you being so cautious? It's not our money. It's mine. My mother left it to me. His face changed. Something dark crossed it. Something that made my stomach hurt. Made me think of my mother's warnings. Right, yours. He set down his fork. Got it. Everything changed after that conversation. Everything. Derek stopped bringing me coffee in the morning. Stopped asking about my day. Stopped compliments. Stopped affection. Stopped everything that had made him seem like a loving husband. He slept in the guest room. Said he wanted to give me space to grieve. But I knew it was punishment. Withdrawal. Manipulation. The silence was awful. Oppressive. We'd go entire evenings without speaking. Pass each other in the hallway like strangers. He stopped doing chores. Stopped taking out trash. Stopped loading the dishwasher. Stopped pretending to be a partner. Started working late. Coming home at 9, 10, 11 p.m. Smelling like bar food and beer. Not even trying to hide it anymore. I caught him looking at divorce lawyers on his laptop. Saw the browser history before he deleted it. Mark and Associates. Illinois divorce law. Spousal rights to inheritance. He was planning, calculating, figuring out how to get the money he thought he deserved. I called my best friend Maria. He's treating me like I stole something from him. Rachel, Maria said gently, over wine at her apartment, away from Derek. Maybe he's showing you who he really is. Your mom never liked him, did she? The words hit hard, like a slap, like truth. Mom had tried to warn me, had tried to protect me, and I'd defended him, chosen him, ignored her wisdom. 1 month after we got the inheritance, 1 month of cold silence and separate bedrooms and barely contained hostility. Derek walked into the kitchen where I was cooking his favorite dinner. One last attempt, one last hope that maybe I was wrong, that maybe he'd come around, that maybe we could salvage this. I think we should separate, he said. And there it was, the moment Mom had predicted, the moment she'd prepared for. I set down my spoon, turned off the stove. Separate. Yeah, this isn't working. You've changed. I've changed. We want different things now. I've been treating you like an ATM for a month. That's not fair, he snapped. I was trying to build a better life for us, but you're too selfish, too controlling. You won't share, won't be a partner. My mother just died and all you care about is her money. Well, maybe divorce will make us both happier, he shrugged. Casual, like he was suggesting a new restaurant. We can split everything and move on. Clean break. I stared at him, at the man I'd married, the man I'd defended to my mother, the man who was exactly who she'd thought he was. Okay, I said calmly, but there's something you should know first. I walked to our home office, opened the safe, retrieved the folder Mr. Patterson had given me, the folder I'd read 3 times, the folder that had made me cry and laugh simultaneously. I slid it across the kitchen counter to Derek. Read page 9, section 4B. Derek opened it confidently, smirking, probably thinking it was the will, thinking he'd already researched Illinois law, thinking he knew his rights, thinking he'd get half. His face went from smug to confused to pale. He read out loud, voice shaking. If my daughter Rachel Chen is married at the time of my passing, she will not receive any portion of this inheritance unless she is legally divorced within 6 months of my death. No spouse, current or former, may claim any portion of this estate under any circumstances. If Rachel remains married past the 6-month deadline, all assets will be donated in their entirety to the American Heart Association. The kitchen went silent, dead silent. You mean, Derek's voice cracked, if we divorce, you get the money? All of it? Every single penny, I said, voice steady. But if we stayed married, if we were still married 6 months from Mom's death, neither of us would see anything. It would all go to charity. The deadline is in 3 weeks. Derek stared at the papers, his hands shaking, actually shaking. Your mother planned this. She set a trap. She sure did, 2 years ago, right after you asked her for the 3rd loan. His face went red, then pale, then red again. We both remembered. The time he'd asked her to invest $15,000 in his friend's restaurant. The time he'd wanted her to co-sign a loan for a boat. The time he'd suggested she help with a down payment on a bigger house. Mom had said no every time, politely, firmly, but she'd been taking notes, watching, planning. She trapped me, Derek whispered. She protected me, I corrected. There's a difference. Derek slumped into a chair. But I talked to a lawyer. He said spouses get half of inheritance in Illinois, community property or whatever, not inheritance with conditions. Mom researched Illinois estate law extensively, worked with Mr. Patterson for months to make it bulletproof. Airtight. The condition is legal and binding. So if I divorce you, I get nothing, nothing. And if I stay married to you, we both get nothing. It all goes to charity in 3 weeks. His face cycled through emotions. Anger, disbelief, calculation, desperation. Rachel, please. Suddenly soft, suddenly pleading. I'm sorry. I've been an ass. We don't have to divorce. We can work this out. Go to counseling. Start over. Too late. Way too late. I'd seen who he really was. Who he'd always been. Who Mom had seen from the beginning. No, Derek, you just proved exactly what you are. You were ready to leave me 2 minutes ago. though. The only thing that changed was learning about mom's conditions, learning you won't get money either way. That's not, you married me for money you thought would come eventually. When mom died, when I inherited, you were playing the long game, but mom was playing longer. He couldn't argue. We both knew I was right. I'm filing tomorrow. You have until the end of the week to find a place. Stay in the guest room until then. As I dumped the chicken parmesan in the trash, his favorite meal, wasted, I felt something I hadn't felt in months. Peace, clarity, freedom. Mom had seen this coming from miles away, years away, and she'd made sure I'd be protected, be safe, be free of him. 3 months later, I was divorced and $580,000 richer. Derek tried to fight it, hired an expensive lawyer he couldn't afford, argued about the conditions, claimed duress, claimed manipulation, claimed unfairness. But mom's conditions were ironclad. No loopholes, no ambiguity, no way for him to get a single penny. The judge actually smiled reading it. Your mother was a very intelligent woman, Mrs. Chen. This is the most well-crafted protective trust I've seen in 30 years. Derek moved to a tiny apartment in Cicero, started driving for Uber to make rent. His Facebook went quiet. His Instagram disappeared. I bought a beautiful house in mom's old neighborhood, Victorian, garden, windows that let in light. I planted vegetables she'd loved, tomatoes, basil, zucchini, spent evenings reading in her favorite chair I'd inherited. I quit my stressful corporate job, started consulting, set my own hours, controlled my own life. I traveled to Ireland, the place mom had always wanted to visit but never had time for. I walked the cliffs of Moher and cried thinking about her wisdom, about her love. Derek still texts sometimes when he's drunk. 2 a.m. messages, apologies, regrets. I'm sorry, I miss you, I made a mistake, but I know the truth. He doesn't miss me. He misses the money he thought he'd get, the lifestyle he thought he'd have, the windfall he'd been counting on. I'm dating again now, carefully, slowly, with the wisdom mom tried to give me 3 years ago. Sometimes I sit in my garden with coffee and talk to her. Thanks, Mom. You saved me. I can almost hear her laughing. Her final move worked perfectly. She knew Derek would show his true self when money appeared, and she made sure that when that moment came, I'd have everything I needed, and he'd have nothing. Retry.